Hi, this is Laylee with In Vivo Leadership Strategies, and this is Integrity Over Scale podcast. Hi, Kelsey. I'm so excited to have you. And I really just want to first give the floor to you and have you share who you are and what you're about. So tell me more about you for our listeners.
Thank you, Laylee, for me. My name is Kelsey. I'm currently a training manager here at Embry University. So more about myself. I'm an international student, came from the Philippines, came to school at Embry to pursue my career as becoming a pilot. Got my ratings done all here at the school, then worked as a student employee in different departments of the university. That really made me understand more of different sides of aviation, not just being a pilot or the flight training itself. Was a instructor here, became a check instructor, got the standards, and then left to fly for a little bit in the corporate side, and then came back here as a manager. And that's my current role.
How did you inspire to go into this field? I'd love to know.
So I grew up in the Philippines. I'm originally from South Korea. My mom wanted me to be able to speak English. She thought that was very valuable. She actually wished she spoke English, so it was supposed to be a temporary move to the Philippines until my English was where it needed to be, and she ended up loving the country and she's still there. So it was not a temporary move, but more so permanent. Then every year we would go back to the Philippines, back to Korea for vacation for summer and winter breaks. And that's when kind of my love for aviation, we say it's cliche, but sparked up. Because airports is more so, I think it was more the feeling of being in an airport, not necessarily the flying itself, because I didn't really saw the flight deck. But when you go to an airport, you're excited to be going somewhere and takes you places. And I think that feeling is what inspired me to then pursue flying. And we say it's more of a joke, but I was too short to be a flight attendant back in Korea. So you need
So
to meet
you
a
went
certain
to a
height.
higher standard.
Yeah, so you have to meet a certain height, and I'm too short to be flight attendant back home. So another way to stay in the industry was to become a pilot. Uh, and so that's kind of what got me into flying. My mom said she knew I would be able to make it because when I was, I think, 7, 8 years old, I went into the adult roller coaster ride and stayed on it for 20 times to the point where the guy that was setting the roller coaster up just told me to stay in my seat until I was done because he was sick of me having to go back and forth in line. And so
What was it about the roller coaster that you liked so much?
I think going back to feeling of seeing things from up above and that feeling of going up. I never had a fear of heights, and so that's kind of what put my mom's trust that she also believed that I could become a pilot prior to having any small aircraft experience.
That's amazing. So there was already this like thrill and what you wanted to do. So I got to spend some time and tour the facility. You were kind enough to show me around before this podcast so I can not only get an idea, but like even as a professor, be able to understand my students very well. And this entire tour was just so inspirational because as a woman in aerospace, there's so much that I think you see and you feel and you do. So tell me what it's like to be a woman in this industry.
I think it is definitely not the easiest to be a woman. I think same idea goes for being an Asian woman. There's just not a lot of visibility. I think that's a difficult part is just visibility. I truly believe nobody's really there to be mean to you or nobody's there to bring you down, but it is more so they don't really know how to react to women in aviation because they don't really know what our specific roles could be. I'm always mixed up or I'm always being seen as a flight attendant, which is again not a bad thing, but they just don't really know how to treat us because of the visibility part. I think in the airlines we're about 3 to 5% of females that have an airline transport pilot license. So as the ratings go up, I think the number goes down or I think the women that stay in the industry also falls behind because as we have children or as we get into the career, we realize that we like being home and whatnot. And going back to that similar idea of they just don't really know how to deal with or how to talk to women in aviation because they also don't want to assume that we're a flight attendant nor assume that we're a pilot, even though the uniform clearly says so.
I'm really glad that you're mentioning all of that. So you said there are ways that they don't know what to do with women in this industry. What are top 3 ways that they don't know what to do? I know you already mentioned they think you're flight attendant, but what are some of the other pieces that play into this as well?
Yeah, I think it's also a lot of language and what the stereotype is for a pilot, where you don't have stress. We, go to different places. We're just on a go, go, go schedule. But we are also people. We get tired, we're fatigued. And if it was a more male to male, because my husband's also a pilot, so when we
Hmm.
discuss about situations like this, it's very different on the outcome. So if
Hmm.
we're tired and whatnot, for if it was a male crew, they would say, just get your stuff and let's go. And okay, that would work more with a male dynamic. With a female, they don't know, does she want to go? Does she not want to go? Do I offend her? Do I not offend her? And so I think that's kind of the dynamic of the captains also don't really know how to talk to women. A lot of it is they don't want to force us, but they don't also want to go on this trip. So back and forth on, do we go? Do we not go? And I think a lot of the conversations that they have is different from how it would be with a male coworker.
So are they nervous about interacting with women, or is it
Hmm.
more like, okay, so what would be some ways that you think would benefit the male listeners and how they interact with women in aerospace?
I think treating us the same would be somewhere to start, but I understand that's also difficult because of the language that's spoken and because of the job that we do. When we go to work, we are actually away, right? We don't get to go home early or late at night. We're actually away for 2 days. Mine was 7 on, 7 off. And so that dynamic is really important to establish because we're with that person for the time that we are gone. And
Mm.
initially, I think the difficulty I had is I took everything personally. We also have to prove ourselves a little more, I think, being a female in the industry, because we just end up becoming that girl that complains or that girl that doesn't know how to do something. Or if we do make a mistake, it's because we are a female. Of course, they don't really know what to do. Versus in a male dynamic, if they make a mistake, it's truly just a mistake and they pick it up another time. Or it's not seen as much because there's way more men in the industry. So I think the biggest thing was if I were to make a mistake, the rumor would spread or the word would spread. It's that girl, that Asian female girl, made that mistake. And so there would be like a stereotype that comes with making a mistake or not doing it in a way that that captain prefers it to be.
Got it. And how do you find out that, let's say, someone is saying that behind your back or saying, oh, there goes Kelsey again? Does that come back to you? Okay, I see. How does that come back to you?
I think it was more apparent in my profession or in the company I worked at because there was way less women. And so in the aircraft that I flew with and the people that I went to class with, they would fly with the same captains. And so then my friend would say, oh yeah, my captain was talking about you and that you did this and that. And they would remember me so clearly versus when I would
Mm.
ask them about my coworkers and say, you remember flying with so and so, and he's just be, I don't really remember. And I said, oh, he said he did this, which was wrong. And he's like, oh, I don't remember. I don't remember him because there's, again, way more male that they're flying with. So it's harder
Mhm.
to stick in their mind. Although whatever they did maybe was exactly what I did, I'm just remembered, I think, a little more because of the less visibility that we have as women.
That makes sense. So let's go into the challenging aspect of it. What has been the challenge for you as a leader?
I think similar stepwise, being a leader, I tend to over explain things because I
Mhm.
want to explain to the employees that report to me on why we're doing things a certain way. And initially in the management role, I didn't realize that that was actually hurting reputation because I'm just over explaining on why I don't have control or I can't give them that authority versus when I looked at my coworkers, it was just no or yes. And that kind of explanation held more little weight. And when I first started the management position, I was the only female manager. And so that also came back of that lady said no or that lady. And so it would always be focused on me of what my answer was versus the male counterparts. If I don't remember who said what, but I remember the answer being yes or no.
Mhm.
And so going back to if I wasn't able to give the most clear communication, it was, well, she said,
Mhm.
and then it would come back to me or they would know exactly who that student or that employee was talking about. I think another part initially was, I don't want to say I wasn't taken seriously, but I don't think initially I was taken
Mhm.
seriously. Or my no would be, well, how about a maybe? So I needed to learn to be more firm with my answer, no or yes.
Mhm.
And that took a little bit of time.
Mhm. And I also want those listeners to know I had, again, a chance to come and tour with you. The way you were going about and the comfort that you had just roaming in the building was pretty impressive. You have this natural leadership, just role. I can see that in you. I can feel that in you. People who were the instructors that were under you have so much respect for you. And so that didn't come easy, is what I'm hearing, is that you have spent so many of your years trying to build that rapport. And so what I was seeing were more of was the result of all the hard work that you were doing. Is that fair to say that that's what I was viewing is just like your years of work in
Yeah,
your
I
teams?
think also, thank you for bringing that up, but I think we have also a lot of qualities as women aviators to use
Mhm.
that quality and make it something good. Like I
I
mentioned,
love
I think
that.
some managers are good at being firm, so managers are good at saying what they want to say, and I over explain. And at the end of the day, that has also helped me because there's a lot of students or employees that don't really feel comfortable asking other managers, but they come to me, or being a female, we have a lot of female students. They come to me and ask specific areas. And so
Yeah.
I think turning the other, I guess, strengths that we have into something that we can use in the industry has also been very meaningful. Same idea as when I was flying. There were some captains or flight attendants that I would meet that are going through something, but didn't feel comfortable speaking up because of how strict the FAA is with the medicals, and we just think that we're strong and can do everything. And so I've been lucky to have a lot of meaningful conversations with captains and first captains and flight attendants and people that I work with where they're able to open up and tell me what's going on. So then the week is really fun because we know more about each other.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. There's so many questions, follow-up questions. I'm trying to think, what do I
Yeah.
really want to hit first and foremost? I know exactly which one. So I loved what you said. It's not giving into this culture of masculinity and using your strengths to be a woman in this industry and lead. And I think that's such a powerful statement that you've made. So it's helped you, and I want to kind of tap into that a little bit more. So it's helped you be a better leader is just to be yourself and just to be who you are.
Hmm.
For listeners who are struggling with that and just being who they are, their authentic self, it doesn't matter if you're leaning too feminine or masculine, like who cares? Just be yourself. What
Hmm.
would your advice be to them that are struggling with this?
I think it's, we all have strengths as people, whether it be male or female, not doesn't matter. Mine was also that I Asian, so I was able to give a lot of support to the other international students because there is that aspect of ultimately we don't feel very secure in a different country because we don't have family or other places to fall back into when there's a lot of change going on. And so, and if somebody else was from Hawaii or somebody else was from a different place, everybody has that unique background, and using that to help others is a strength that I think everybody can do, no matter being female or male in an industry. I'm sure, Professor Laley, you also have a similar experience with having female students in your class, international students, or whatever they might be going through. You are able to give them a way more, able to give them advice more specific to their situation because you have also dealt with a similar situation breaking into the aerospace industry. I think I've had a lot of conversations with my husband and said, how would you react to this? Am I being too sensitive? Am I being too emotional? How do I not be too emotional? And I think my husband also has said, I wouldn't have reacted that way, but so what? You are not me. Like, why does
Wow,
it
that's
matter
so
how I would
powerful.
have acted? And he said, I think what you did was fine because you weren't being rude. You just voiced how you felt within that situation. I can't speak for you because I am not you. And that has also helped me a lot in
Mm.
terms of, yeah, of course, he will react differently because what he has spoken does not apply to him. So,
I am a big fan of your husband. He seems to have like a really smart person. It's interesting you shared seeing the needs, especially like teaching as a professor too with aerospace. I saw a trend that's been happening now for however long I've been teaching. I have
Mhm,
both female and male students. With my male students, they are very outspoken. They'll talk
mhm,
about anything. My female students, for the most part, they tend to stay quiet unless I ask them to speak up. There have been
mhm,
several instances where especially students in aerospace that are women, I have to like if they write first of all, the papers that they write as women are fantastic, very strong, very strong papers. And usually in the comment section, I usually write, I would love it if you speak louder in class
mhm,
because you have amazing ideas. And so as much as I customize it, I still see the trend of women tend to stay a little bit more quiet in the classroom
mhm,
atmosphere. Whereas I wish they could just speak their truth and just speak louder. And so I'd love
mhm,
what your husband said. Just,
mhm,
I'm
mhm.
not you, so it's okay. You can be who you want to
Mhm,
be, and you're leading just fine. When you hear that
mhm,
kind of support from someone who like just loves you, what does that feel like for
mhm.
you as a woman?
I think it's validating because same idea of if I, again, s- somebody said something and I react to it right away, and then later on I'm like, would a male pilot act the same way? That's always what's in the back of my mind because I want them to treat me equally. So then I'm also trying to give them the same treatment that a male would. And then I'm always overthinking of maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I should have not reacted that way. Maybe I should have brushed it off because I believe that's what a male first officer or captain would do. And then hearing something like that from
Mhm.
my husband and saying, but you are not a male pilot. Why are you trying to act like a male pilot? You are just not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then that kind of grounds me back to like, I cannot act to be one because I am not one. And that kind of is what kept me, or that was what was more in the back of my mind of it's okay to react a certain way because we are not the same people. Because I think even with two different women in the same situation would react different, and that is also fine
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we are not the same person. And
Agree.
so that's what I think I've learned to act in a way because it's how I feel. It's because of my experience, because of the relationship or the day was with my captain. And then at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the week, because for my schedule, it was 7 days on. And if I was to be with the same captain for 7 days, at the end of the week, it ended always good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the week, it was the same idea of he didn't really know what to say. He didn't know if this was
Mm-hmm.
okay. And again, they've flown way longer. So they've seen the change of it used to be way more, the days were longer. We couldn't complain. We couldn't because of the position or how the aerospace industry was. And then they're again not trying to offend you or not trying to be an asshole, quote unquote, but they just don't really know how to react. So then at the end of the week, we would just be laughing and having a good time because they've also understood, okay, we were able to have a good conversation and we all passed the same test. We all have the same rating. So I think that also is something that we should be proud of because we're not put in the seat because we're a female. We're put
Right.
in that position because we also have all the ratings and requirements needed. And I think in the beginning, I used to forget that.
Again, such powerful answers. I really appreciate your honesty in there. I want to ask you, what do you wish was different?
I really like that because I think in the beginning, I only had more so also male professors.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
And I
uh-huh.
also already kind of felt out of place in the classroom itself because
Yeah.
I also do understand why female students are not speaking up as much. Can I ask what the ratio is between the female and male students?
Oh, for my classrooms, is that what
Yeah,
you're asking?
yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So usually I have more, so in my senior class, I would say it's maybe last semester was 60% men, 40% women.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's gotten much
Yeah.
better. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think with my class, there was more male. And so again, I think felt a little out of place. And I was that student that was really shy. And I wish
Mhm.
I broke out of my shell a little more. I think the very fortunate part was my first instructor was retired military.
Mhm.
And he was just doing the instructing job for fun. He wasn't trying to go anywhere else. He was retired and this was something to get him out of the house. And so I think, he was the one that put the confidence in me. Because every time I'd make a mistake, I would kind of hold back and, okay, maybe I'm not fit for this. Maybe I can't. Maybe. And he would just sit down, relax, and I would have a not so great landing, and he'd be like, "You did it. I'm alive. You're alive. We just need to fine tune it." And he was the one that put a lot of confidence in me, and so that is also, I think, a big part of my growth in the aviation industry as a female Asian pilot. So I wish more students had that experience.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah.
that's, I think, where I got really lucky.
You had someone who was mentoring you and was doing in like a very calm state rather than
Mhm, mhm.
coming at you. Was that the other comparison? So what this mentor was doing compared to others, what was the difference that you felt?
So I think with newer instructors, because the airplane reacts really quickly, you don't really have time to say, don't do that or fix this because, especially in a landing scenario, because the plane is, you're getting ready to come into the ground. So with some of the instructors, they would just take controls, they my controls, and then that would put fear in the student of, what did I do wrong? What's going on? But my instructor was able to just say, okay, how about I take controls and then I'll be able to do the rest. Watch what I'm doing. You did fine, just watch what I'm doing. And then he would do it and he says, okay, back to
Yeah.
you. Then I would do it well. And he'd be like, see, not that bad. And that I realized later on that that wasn't the experience that most of the students had in the beginning. So that I think was something that really led me to the right direction. I think I am happy with how the steps went. Another advice that I would have, which is what I did that I'm happy with, is as soon as I came to school, I worked as a student employee in all until I graduated, basically in all different departments. And that allows you to understand that flying is, not just flying. The like airlines or any other company, there's so many components that come into play when you're for an airline or for any other flying organization. And that also different departments made me see a lot of visibility of women, not just being a pilot. And that encouraged me a lot because when I first started, I think the ratio was about like 6% of students were female. And so I
Wow.
kind of branched out to different areas and seeing women presence in those areas is what helped me, not necessarily just pilot, because again, that is not everything of what a flight school has.
I want to ask a question, but also tread it lightly. Do you think it's important to have more women in aerospace and why?
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
I think because we work really well together with male and female, we just work really well together. They have their strength and then we have our strengths. And so not just necessarily because there needs to be a better ratio, but I just think we work well together as male and female because of our differences. And so we are actually able to help each other make a product or make the operation better. And so I think
Mhm.
that's why we need to be there, not just because of the differences, but because of how the differences complement each other. Kind of like when you were when I went to your presentation with Dr. Ron, I think
Mhm.
you had really strong points that you were presenting and Dr. Ron did too, and you guys really complemented each other very, very well
Thank
with
you.
the differences. And so that's, I think, what I want to see, not just more males or more females in particular, but more
Mhm.
females because we complement each other well in the work that we do. And I think it starts with visibility.
Thank you for sharing that. And then for listeners, the presentation that Kelsey is talking about is myself and Dr. Ron Wellman, who is my colleague and teaching in Embry-Riddle, we did a scale presentation and we talked about emotional intelligence when it comes to financing for small businesses. And Kelsey was wonderful. She was there to support us. And I totally agree. Even after the presentation, both Dr. Wellman and I talked about it and said how amazing it is to bring two people with different perspectives and even different worldviews. Like, forget the gender part aside. I'm
Mhm.
an Iranian woman, moved to the US when I was 10 years old, and experienced life very differently than Dr. Wellman has. And he's pretty much grown up in the US. So I love that. I love that perspective so much, Kelsey. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for women who are in aerospace industry or any highly dominated male industries?
I think same, first of all, is to not want to, like, you don't have to change anything to be like them because we are different and that's what makes us unique. And that's what makes us bring something different to the team because we have our own perspective and differences, but is also having a really good mentor or somebody in the industry that you can talk to. Kind of the same thing as I was when I'm spiraling of, is this okay to say? Am I just again being sensitive? What is going on? I have my husband and a lot of other aviators here that I just talked to
Uh-huh.
because I don't, same idea. I think in such a niche career field, you need someone that you can talk to because it's very niche. And I think just having a friend or a mentor really helps. Like when I started class for business, I had no idea what, again, business for aviation is because it's very niche. And talking to Dr. Ron, talking to you, having a mentor in that space really helps because initially you don't feel like you belong.
Yeah.
And so either finding a mentor, which can be hard, but I know all different organizations have like a mentor program, like Women in
Uh-huh.
Aviation does, PAPA, which is the Professional Asian Pilot Organization Association does, Women in Aviation, NBAA, Business in Aviation, all those organizations have a mentorship program. So either getting into a mentorship program or what I initially did was send people messages on LinkedIn and asked for mentorship in the new role that I was interested in. And a lot of them responded, making communication that way. And I hate to say this, but Dr. Ron always pushes me to go to events and network. And I did, and it worked. And that's why I don't like to say because it worked. And I don't really like going and networking, but that is what really helped me feel like I belonged in that space. Because you go to this events and networking events and you're like, why am I even here? Do I even belong? And then you go in and you talk with all these people that are all from different backgrounds. And that makes you also then, okay, I belong and I'm able to have these meaningful conversations. And that's the only
Hmm.
way you really learn, I believe. So,
I totally agree. Networking is it's very helpful even for someone who's an introvert. I know a lot of
hmm
introverts in my life.
hmm
It's really scary when you do it. And
hmm
then
hmm
when you come out of it, it's kind of like when you run, you maybe hate running and then you're like, I'm really glad I did that.
yeah.
So
I
I'm
think
sure Dr.
exactly that.
Wellman is going to be so excited to listen to this podcast and hear your
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there was
results.
a event that I was very hesitant in going, and he said, "You that was homework," 'cause he was helping me. He was my mentor for one of the class, and that was homework that he gave me, and so he's like, "Now you have to go." So I went, and I'm glad I went, and it had good outcome at the end, so
And
unfortunately, it worked.
I'm really glad it worked. So what Dr. Wellman is doing, he's trying to build your sponsorship well.
Oh,
He's
okay.
trying
Okay.
so you mentioned mentorship, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. You should have people that
Mhm.
give you advice. You mentioned your husband, your colleagues. Sponsorship for our listeners, it's different. And now a mentor can be a sponsor too if they want to. That means like when you're not in the room, they advocate for you. They say, Kelsey
Mhm.
should be promoted for this and this reasons. You should think about her. You should do that. When you're networking, you're building your network,
Mhm.
period. And you're getting more fans. And so those fans technically don't have to be your mentor, but they know you and they know your capabilities. And so when they're
Mhm.
out there, an opportunity comes, they say, Kelsey's the right person for this,
Mhm.
and here's why. And they have trusted people. And so when they say something, those trusted people will say, Okay, if you say it, then Kelsey's fantastic. So you
Mm,
get invited in the room. A lot of women don't do this. And there are
mhm,
McKinsey report, Gal reports showing that one of the biggest gap for women is sponsorship. We don't
mm,
have a lot of women with sponsors.
mhm,
So I'm so glad that we're ending it here because it's so positive. If there's
mhm.
a lesson for us is just expand your network and advocate for yourself. So thank you, Kelsey, for being part of this podcast. Is there a way we can find you to connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, I have a LinkedIn. If you go Kelsey Beck, that's my last name. You'll be able to find me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer questions. If you happen to be at Embry-Riddle Prescott, you can come find me, and I can show you around. And I think that's kind of like you said, the beauty is when you're in a position or an organization, it's routine for you, so you just don't think much of it because it's routine. But same thing with when Dr. Ron told me about the organization that he was in,
Yeah.
NBA or clubs. It's not something I even thought about when I met with you, Dr. Laley. It was same thing, like the scale event, listening, and not something I would think of because it is not my norm, and it was really an amazing time. And I'm sure for you, it's like a routine event. And I show you the flight department and you're having a good time, is just for me, it's where I come to work. It's the same thing every day. And so I think that's the beauty of networking and connecting because
Mm.
you're able to get exposure to so many things that for you might be a very eye-opening experience, but for somebody else, it's more routine.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you show people around on the differences or whatnot. Like I had a student come in and I showed them the maintenance hangar and there's a female mechanic. And that I think opened up her world and because she
Yeah.
thought about being a mechanic, never thought that she could even be in that role because it's highly even more male dominated. And she saw a female mechanic and she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, she's supervisor. She's doing it all and she does an amazing job. And so I think exposure
Wow.
is key. And I think you're setting the same example. Somebody that moved to the US, empowering women, having the business, having the podcast. I'm sure a lot of women are not, or they don't think that that's something that they can do. And you showing it and doing it is opening their eyes that, okay, it is something that I might be able to do. Not necessarily just being a pilot, but bringing women together and just people together in general. I think what you're doing is also setting the great example and giving exposure that way. So thank you for having me on this podcast.
Thank you, Kelsey. You are so inspirational and I love what you do. I mean, when I met you, I was impressed, and then you welcomed me with open arms to give me a tour of the department that was part of my world and I didn't know. And so also watching you and how you were interacting with your peers and your team and seniors, I was just like, wow, Kelsey, you crush it every single day, and I can see that in you. So thanks for letting me be part of your world. And this is Integrity Over Scale podcast. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. All right.
Awesome.